Good afternoon. It's Far here. I'm going to do my words on video, and this is a new experience for me, but I've got a lot of time on my hands, as I'm sure you have too. So this message is called Learning to Tolerate Pain. Pain is something that none of us want to endure, whether it be physical or mental pain. Any sort of pain, we want to run away from. But this situation with COVID-19, where we are locked down for 4 weeks, there's nothing we can do. We'll try, but there's nothing. In fact, I took my son for a walk this morning just to get him running because he's young, and I saw 4 people standing together on the street, and then they walked down the street. So, some people are going to fight it. Jesus said in Luke 21, verse 26, people will faint from terror, apprehensive of what is coming on the world, for the heavenly bodies will be shaken. Now, he was talking about what's going to happen, well, I believe, in our time. People will faint from terror. Fear will become a very real thing to people. There are many examples. You've got anxiety, you've got depression, you've got stress. Stress is a major thing. But I think the most obvious example to use right now is what's happening in the supermarkets. People are panic buying. People are stocking up, which is valid. It's a valid thing to do. Who knows what will happen? But some people are going beyond what they need to because of fear, because of the fear of what could be. And Jesus knew it. People say the world's getting worse. There's crime, there's poverty, and of course, COVID-19. But to me, there is a question mark with that when people say that to me. Is the world getting worse? I've never experienced the Great Depression. I've never been in war. So I don't have a lot of kind of experience or an example to kind of make that statement. In fact, I think we've lived a pretty good life. We've never had so many things. We live in a consumer society. Things are a lot cheaper than what they used to be. I remember growing up in the 80s how, a video player was like $1,000. But there's many examples. But I'm not willing to say that the world is getting worse. There are concerns, but I don't think it's getting worse. I've got a few statistics here to look at the world that we have right now. You can find these online. World Health Organization has most of them. But here it says the percentage of the global population living in absolute poverty fell from 80% in 1800 to 20% by 2015. That's 60%. We know that India is becoming a raging economy. China is, it looks like they're going to be taking over the world after the obvious. We have less people living in poverty. New Zealand has some people that are poor. We have poverty, but we don't know real poverty. Not really. I remember my pastor was a great man. He became my father in the Lord. He took me to India when I was about 19. Partially, I think it was because he was wanting to show me what life was really like. Because I was a bit of a rebel, a ruffian. I don't think I was ever spoilt. I was brought up in a pretty poor background too. But he took me to a place called Lucknow, fourth poorest city in the world back then. And I have never seen anything like it. I saw beggars, I saw people maimed on the street, living under corrugated iron, living off what would be kind of the equivalent to 20 cents a day, maybe even 10 cents a day. And that was real poverty. And I struggled with that. I didn't want to leave my room, didn't like it, wanted to get home. But after a while, I got used to it and I enjoyed it. But I'm glad I had that experience because it actually made me realize of what I have in New Zealand. Like we don't have those problems. We're a Western country. And I don't like to make the complaint that we are struggling with poverty because there are real people, real struggles for people around the world that are struggling with poverty. But even if you look at the statistics, like I went over there in 1995. It would have been high in poverty then, but I don't know what it'd be like now. I'm sure it wouldn't be that bad now. So things are improving with poverty. You can look at the crime statistics in New Zealand. In 2011, New Zealand's recorded crime rate was at its lowest in 15 years, down another 5.6% on the figures from 2010. We have problems. We have problems with domestic violence, with anger, these sorts of things. I mean, I see it. I see it. That our crime rate is dropping. Something's working. We don't have high figures in that kind of arena. And I think in the world statistics, the crime rate's dropping too. So something's working. And of course, we have the COVID-19 epidemics. Anyone will tell you now that we have had epidemics for thousands of years. But I'm not going to go back that far. I'm just going to go back to, around the beginning of the 19th century. An estimated 500 million people from the South Seas, North Pole, had got the Spanish flu. 1/5 of those died. That's a massive amount of people that just spread. Boom. The Asian flu pandemic was another global showing for influenza. 1 million lives, claimed 1 million lives. The swine flu pandemic, I remember when this came. It infected 1.4 billion people and killed about up to 500,000 people. 500,000 people, and we'll probably get to those statistics with COVID-19. Now, these things are very real, they're very scary, but it looks to me like things have gotten better over time. I don't know if we're going to get to 1 billion people dying with COVID-19. And the reason I say that is because, if you look back to the time of the Spanish flu and the Black Plague, the systems were not as thorough as they are now. We've got very good systems, particularly in this country. You know what Jacinda Ardern has done to lock us down, although we don't like it, we don't want to do it. It shakes our routines. It's a really wise decision to make. She's saving us, and I'm all for it. And these systems we have in place, this kind of westernized political system, the health system we have in place, no matter, I hear people cursing it, saying there's a conspiracy and all these stupid things. It's the only system we've got, and I think it's the best system we've got. And I don't think we're going to see the amount of horror and terror that happened in the Spanish flu. Like, you look at the Spanish flu. People didn't know. People were ignorant. People didn't have social media. People couldn't see these things happening. It was a silent killer. Although COVID-19 is a silent kind of unseen killer, we're talking to each other. We're communicating. The world is communicating and trying to deal with it. You look at Wuhan, no more problems. Systems come in, bam, dealt with it. People are a lot more obedient over there, obviously because of the martial law and communistic type beliefs they have. But as soon as we get our head around what we're supposed to be doing there, I think we'll be fine. So let's look at the statistics. This was stats from World Health Organization a couple of days ago. It's gone up, but this is what I saw a couple of days ago. Coronavirus cases, 421,000. Deaths, 18,000. Recovered, 108,000. That's quite a significant percentage have recovered. So we're going to get through this. We're going to get through this. Things aren't that bad in this world right now. But people are struggling. That's true. And people will struggle more. It's likely that the domestic violence rates in this country and the world will grow. Alcoholism, drug addictions, mental health issues will grow stronger. That's true. That's not good news, but that's a fact. And we are at a point right now where depression and anxiety and mental health issues is the number one disease. Are the main diseases around the world. 1 in 4 people in the world will be affected by mental or neurological disorders at some point in their lives. 500 million people currently suffering from such conditions as mental health disorders. It's a massive percentage of the world is struggling with depression and anxiety and other psychological disorders. Now, when I was younger and I went to Knox Presbyterian Church, and we read about the end times and what were the diseases and famines that were going to be coming to earth to wipe out people, we used to think AIDS was going to be the one, or cancer was going to be the one to wipe out people. But AIDS has been pretty good for a while. Like, you can live quite a long life. To me, it's not that. To me, the problem that we are seeing now is this problem in our mind. In Isaiah 8 verse 12, it says, "Do not call conspiracy everything this people calls a conspiracy." Now, that's a great scripture. What he was basically saying is, don't believe in rumors and gossip. Just because a multitude or a group of people believe something, you don't have to believe it. I'm very strong on that. I try to critically think about anything that I hear or I see. And I got to tell you, I don't think many people do that. I think people see what's happening on social media, what's happening on the news, because it's just doom and gloom, doom and gloom. These things are real. We are dealing with COVID-19, but there's definitely a hyperbolic kind of method in social media and the news. Don't call everything conspiracy. When I look at the scripture, it reminds me of Chicken Little. The sky is falling. The sky is falling. Don't believe it. The sky's not falling. Isaiah 8 verse 12, the other half of that scripture, it says, "Do not fear what they fear, and don't dread it." Now that's tough. That's a difficult thing to do. Because fear is easy. It's easy to get sucked in. It's easy to give yourself to confirmation bias or heuristics, and just what you see, you believe is true. And it's easy to take on that fear and take it for yourself. The amount of conversations that I have with people, all they're kind of telling me is stuff that they've regurgitated online. They don't even know if it's true. And it's not real fears. Part of that, I think, is because of boredom. People just have nothing else to do but to talk about crazy things. Now, the problem with fear is it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. The more you feed it, the more it grows. Like anything, like a tree, the more you feed it water in the sun, it grows into a massive tree like we have here, many trees. Spreading rumors of fear can create groups that ignorantly believe without finding out if the information is rational and factual. Now, one of the reasons why I think people would rather believe in fear, like certain statements, is because it takes a lot of work to find out if something's true or not. To me, it's laziness. I don't like anyone that tells me anything. I don't just take it. I don't just, because people exaggerate and lie. Someone said something to me the other day, and I said to myself, really? Someone was saying something a while ago, and actually, I'll be honest. I was in a classroom, and someone said something. And I said, "That can't be true. That's not true." But people wanted it to be true. People wanted it to be true, and it was around poverty. How poverty's destroying our economy. It's not destroying our economy. We have not known a destroyed economy. We could, not saying it's not going to happen, it could happen, but it's not happening now. It hasn't happened in the last decade, I should say. Okay, so before I finish, have a Coke. I just want to share a passage from the Bible that I think the Lord spoke to me about the other day. Now, when I say the Lord speaks to me, I'm not saying He speaks to me audibly. I'm not saying that. I just get impressions, I get thoughts, and I develop it, and I believe that's the Lord. That's the way it works for me. And it's the story of Mark 4. Mark 4 verse 37. It says, "Suddenly a windstorm struck the lake, waves started splashing into the boat, and it was about to sink. Jesus was in the back of the boat with his head on a pillow, and he was asleep. His disciples woke him and said, 'Teacher, don't you care that we're about to drown?' Jesus got up and ordered the wind and the waves to be quiet. The wind stopped and everything was calm. Jesus asked his disciples, 'Why were you afraid? Don't you have any faith?'" Now, it's an amazing story. I mean, I don't want to kind of just, whether you believe it or not, I'm not worried about that. It's the message. It's the message. And it kind of ties in with this message. Years ago, I worked at a high school. We had some challenges. We had some real challenging kids. And there was a time when there was a threat of a school lockdown because of the violence. Like, it was crazy. Like, I was getting kids off the roof and stopping a whole lot of fights. And not with just kids, but with kids going after teachers as well. But anyway, I remember this, and I remember the whole staff room, we were all panicking. And I say we, because I was panicking too. What to do? What do we do? What to do? And people were just saying some crazy stuff. And then I saw this principal walk in. And just like the story, she just said to everyone, "Calm down." And everyone calmed down. And I made a decision. I was in my early 20s, probably just 20 actually. Just starting out as a youth worker, I made a decision. I want to be like that person. Now that's kind of the example that fits with me with Jesus. Now he was asleep. He had this amazing kind of inner peace that none of us would probably have. You know, unless you meditate 24 hours a day, maybe. I try to meditate an hour. But he had this calm and he was asleep, and his men were just panicking and going crazy, thinking the worst. They're going to die, which is pretty valid. Probably looked like they were going to die. But Jesus got up and says, "What's wrong with you? Be calm." Now, I believe that's the example that Jesus has here is for us. Calm yourself. Someone's got to be the rock. Someone's got to be the person that's not panicking in this time, because many are. Someone's got to be a person that's not given to social media or the news as much. Someone's got to be someone that stays strong on who they are instead of being rocked by this. You got to be strong for your family. You got to be strong for your country. We do have a great challenge ahead. Like, this is just the beginning. There's going to be some pain that we're going to have to learn to tolerate. But you can get through this. I know that because that's what I'm trying to do, to be the rock. Now, there is a method to how I do that, and it's real simple. How I keep myself calm is down to a system that I've been using for the last I don't know how many years. What I do every day, as soon as my family's taken care of, I get out, I get into my garage and the gym, go hard with burpees, press ups. weights, all these sorts of things. I mean, you don't have to do that, obviously. You could just, go for a mini wee walk or something. And then after that, I sit down, I do some really strong breathing exercises, and I pray. I pray. I pray hard out for my family, my friends, everyone. I must pray for about 200 people. I have a list of people. I pray. I thank God for everything He's doing for me. I thank Him for the circumstances that I'm in. And I'm clapping, I'm singing to Him, I'm telling Him how much I love Him. And then after that, I sit in silence and meditate and listen. Sometimes He speaks to me, sometimes He doesn't. Actually, more often than not, He does. And I write notes. Now, that's a system that I use for me to help me to keep strong. Might not work for everyone. People might have other things. It might be music, it might be art, it might be something that you can do. But the most important thing out of that is spending time with the Lord, spending time with the rock, spending time with the one. I believe if we do that, we'll learn how to tolerate pain. We'll learn how to be rocks and to be leaders amongst our people. And that is it. Thank you.